Hi, and welcome to Codebreak. My name is Hadi, and across Zoom, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, we have tens of thousands of people joining us. Together, we're hoping to build the world's largest live interactive classroom. With so many students at home, my team at Code.org invites families everywhere to join us for a weekly dose of inspiration, community, and computer science. I'm here with my daughter and sidekick, Sophia.
Hello.
She's a budding computer scientist. And I'd like to introduce our first special guest, the amazing actress and activist, Yara Shahidi.
Hello,
Yara,
hello.
hi, how are you and where are you calling us from?
I'm good. I'm calling from LA where I am with my family, quarantined.
And how are you spending this time with everything closed?
I mean, it's been a mixture of keeping busy while learning, and then lots of family activities. One of my brothers made a podcast in his free time, so it's really just been trying to stay creative.
And you've been in school. Did school just finish for you?
Yes, the other day, literally 24 hours ago,
24
turned
hours.
in my last papers.
And what year are you? You're studying at Harvard. What year are you in?
Yeah, I'm a sophomore, so I'm now a rising junior.
Awesome. And Yara, do you have any thoughts you want to share with students who, like you, have been studying at home and are probably struggling with staying motivated while school is no longer?
I know and understand because not only am I doing it, but both of my brothers who are in middle and high school have been distance learning, and I know it can be difficult. I think the way that I've done it is I've tried to create my own goals for myself because it's sometimes hard to stay motivated with their goals. So whether that's, I mean, something super simple, I'm secretly a grandmother. So whether that's knowing that I get to crochet when I finish an assignment or get to go learn a new skill, then that's usually what inspires me to get through whatever I need to finish.
That's great. Well, I'd like to introduce another special guest, Fuzzy Khosrowshahi. Fuzzy, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. Fuzzy is the inventor of Google Spreadsheets. And where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from beautiful New Jersey, overlooking New York.
And probably the question everybody wants to know, what kind of name is Fuzzy?
What kind of name is Fuzzy?
Is that a real name?
It's a very popular Persian name. No, it's a nickname. My soccer coach decided to call me Fuzzy, and it stuck and probably served me well because everyone who meets me thinks, "Oh, what a funny name," and it's a good conversation starter.
All right. Well, we're going to start today's, I guess, conversation with the computer joke of the day. And Sophia's got a little sound machine that she uses because we're kind of a low production here. Sophia, you want to tell Fuzzy and Yara your joke of the day?
Okay. What did computers do just before going to bed?
What did they do?
They spread sheets.
I like that.
That's a spreadsheets joke just for Fuzzy.
Thank you.
Now let's meet our live audience. We're going to switch to gallery view so we can see the names and the faces of all the students who are joining us on camera. Can everybody wave and say hello?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh my
God.
Hi.
Hi.
This is so exciting to see everybody.
I'd like to also have us say hello to the rest of our audience. We can't see the majority of our audience, but I'm going to screen share as they were joining this. We gave them a chance to put where they're from on a map. So here's our map.
Oh, wow.
Yara and Fuzzy, I don't know if you expected to have people from not only all over the world, but time zones very far away from here. Yeah,
so grateful that everyone's tuning in.
Yeah. A lot of people
joining it. Yeah, it's either people as early as 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 1 a.m., really from all time zones who are joining for this live classroom, which has really just been an incredible thing to see happen during this pandemic. So also just so you know, these students they range from age 6 to 60 from all grades. They're also different levels of experience, some beginners, some intermediate, some advanced. If you're advanced, please be patient with us. We're going to start with easy stuff. And if you're a beginner, please stick with us through the whole classroom, even if it goes too fast for you. Hopefully you'll soak something up. Also, if you have questions during the show for either of our special guests or for me, You can visit code.org/questions to submit your questions. Today, we have 3 parts in our episode. We're going to talk about variables today, and we're going to learn about variables first in an unplugged way, then about using variables in games, and lastly about using variables in apps. Variables are one of the most important things in computer science. But before we move on to today's lesson, we want to welcome some students to demo their creations to our special guests. Last week's challenge was to make your own flowchart or to modify the apps we made for you, the Magic 8-Ball app or the Dice Roller app. And each week when you share your creations, we'll invite you to show the best ones on next week's episode. So Yara and Fuzzy, you ready to meet our 2 students from last week?
Absolutely.
So ready.
All right, so Daksh, who's from India, submitted a dice roller project this week. Daksh, I think we're gonna unmute you. Can you tell us more about?
Yes.
Daksh, are you there?
Actually, sir, yeah, we are from India. Hello.
Hello,
Right.
hello.
Hi there, where are you from?
India.
India. Let me screen share your app and then you can tell us more about it.
It's a very nice hat, by the way.
Sir, actually, no, there are 2 variables. First one is first variable. The first variable we put straightforward equivalent to random integer. Second one, there is variable which we put equivalent to random number, which it picks from 1 to 10. As we click Daksh, then there is number come. Whether it comes 1, then there is equal to 1. 6, then it comes to then Alia. We press Alia, then it comes 5. So this number 6 is more than 5. Result, Daksh wins.
So it's like, it took, not only we made a dice rolling app, you guys created this from scratch.
Again,
So I can
we click.
roll the dice.
Click. Then
So
result comes.
it picks a random number for
result-
each of Daksh and Alia and shows who wins.
Result comes. Alia wins. Then click again. Click Daksh again. Yeah, and Alia, and result. Here you go. Daksh wins.
This
Again,
time Daksh wins.
If there are 2 numbers equal, then match
If they're
ties.
the same, the ties. I got it. And is Alia Daksh's sister or
Yes.
who is
Yes.
Alia?
My
Oh,
sister.
Sister. All right.
Very cool.
The second app we have is from Abigail. Unfortunately, Abigail's audio isn't working, so she can't speak with us. Abigail's from Vermont, and she took our Magic 8-Ball app, which was a very, very simple app, and made something much more complicated. She made 6 different games all
Wow.
in one. Yara or Fuzzy, are there any of these you want to try?
Yara, go ahead.
I play tic-tac-toe.
Excellent. I'm not that
Actually,
good
I think
at
Tic-Tac-Toe is the one she hasn't finished yet.
Oh, okay.
That's the only one I tried this guy before and it doesn't work yet.
No.
You want to do truth or dare?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's try truth or dare. All right. Yara, do you want truth or dare?
I'll do a truth.
All right. Let's go, Sophia. You want to click?
I'm nervous.
Oh, gosh. Have you ever stolen from someone?
I am proud to say I haven't.
Probably haven't. Okay. Just because you're live with 10,000 people, you haven't.
I'm glad we asked that question from Yara.
So there's another one of these apps is the Cursor Maze. Check this out. Sophia has wanted to play this all morning. So this is a Cursor Maze app where you need to control the mouse to get from the start to finish without touching any of the blocks. So she has to move the mouse very carefully. And it gets harder.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's a
How
really
long did it
simple
take her
app.
to do this?
I don't know. This is 1 out of 6 apps, and then you have to click next level.
Right.
Ah, you lose.
I didn't see
All right.
the thing.
Great. This is
Well,
phenomenal.
Thank you, Abigail, for sharing that app.
Thank you, Abigail.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
Sophia, do you want to play an applause sound for both Abigail and Daksh for their apps?
Yes.
Sorry you were on mute.
All right, so for today, our word of the day is variable. A variable is a way to store or hold information that can change. You may be familiar with variables from math class. Like in math class, when you say x equals 5, x is a variable and it holds the number value 5. But variables in programming are different in two key ways. First of all, in programming and computer science, variables can change. So X can start like a 5, but then it can become a 6 or a 7 or an 8. It doesn't stay the same. The second thing is variables in computer science can hold many different types of values. They can be numbers, they can have words, or even more complicated information. Now, why would we use a variable? Anytime a computer program wants to keep track of anything, because the variables basically act like it's memory, like to remember the score in a game, or to remember the names of the players, or anytime you type something in an app, the app remembers it in a variable. Now, we're going to see variables in action with help from Yara. So we're going to switch to gallery view to see all the students on the screen. And I want every student on the screen, including Fuzzy and Yara, to all be variables. You're each basically going to be variable, and each variable has a name. So Yara, we can see your names on the screen. So Yara, what's your name? It's Yara.
Yara.
So that's the name of your variable. So each variable gets assigned a value. So I'd like you each to pick a number between 1 and 10 and to hold up your number up on the screen so we can see all the numbers assigned to all the different variables. All right, so Yara, what number are you storing?
7.
You're 7. So you could say that Yara equals 7. So now, Yara, I'm going to ask you to change your value. And so when I do, you can like shimmy your hands when you get a new number.
Okay.
Everybody else keep your numbers up. And I want to make a number that combines the numbers in the variables Owen and Evelyn. So we're going to highlight Owen. That's Owen. Owen, what number are you showing? That's a 2. And then Evelyn. And Evelyn, I think, is showing a 3. So Yara, I want to set Yara equals Owen plus Evelyn. Oh, so you're already a 5. You changed from a 7 to a 5. So when we say Yara equals Owen plus Evelyn, you set one variable to the value of 2 other variables. Now, Owen and Evelyn, can you both change your numbers? Pick a number between 1 and 5, a different number. All right, and Yara, can you re-evaluate Yara equals Owen plus Evelyn? All right, so you see now Owen is a 4 and Evelyn is a 2, so Yara became a 6. Now I want to ask Evelyn, your number changed. Did your name change?
No.
No? And that's right, because with variables, the value of a variable can keep changing. A computer program can change it all the time. The name of the variable stays the same. All right, you can put your hands down. We're going to do something totally different now. We're going to use now variables in a different way. What we're going to do is show how variables help computer programs remember. And to do this, we're going to have Yara act like a computer program for ordering a fruit basket.
Okay.
Yara, since you're an actress, you're going to act like a computer who can't remember anything without saving information. And we want you to
my greatest role yet.
We want you to act like you have no memory without the help of your variables, and all the students you see on screen are going to be your variables. They can save information for you. Does that sound okay?
That sounds great.
All right, did you remember anything I just said?
No.
Actually, you need to remember what I said. The rules you need to remember, but once you're running the computer program, you should forget it all.
Great, got it.
Sophia here is going to order a fruit basket from Yara. And Yara, each time Sophia asks for new fruit to add to the basket, I want you to ask one of the student variables on screen to save that piece of information by writing it down. So you could say, for example, Naomi, please save an apple, and Naomi will write it down. And while you're doing this, Fuzzy, you're going to be a counter variable. I want you to start with the number 0, and then each time Sophia asks for a new fruit, add 1 to your number, so you'll show how much fruit Sophia has asked for.
I've been practicing.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, Sophia, go.
I'd like to order an apple, please.
Samuel, can you remember an apple?
And so Samuel's going to need to write this down.
Or just remember it. And then next, I would like an orange.
Seth, can you do me a favor and remember orange?
And write it down, Seth.
I want a pear.
Anusha, can you please remember pear for me?
Can I have a grapefruit, please?
Naomi, can you remember grapefruit for me, please?
I'd like a kiwi too.
All right, Serena, will you write down kiwi for me?
And lastly, I would like a banana.
Okay, Amir, can you remember banana for me, please?
All right, before we make this fruit basket, how much is this fruit order going to cost? Let's say it's $2 per piece of fruit. How much should Sophia pay? Let's do a poll from our audience, all the folks on Zoom who are not on camera. You can look at Fuzzy the counter, and we're gonna ask, how much does Sophia's fruit basket cost? Is it $12? Or is it $2 per fruit? Or is it 2 times Fuzzy? Or is it all of the above?
All of the above, I'd say.
Don't tell us the answer. People are actually filling out the poll, but all right, almost half of the students have already voted. Fuzzy sort of possibly gave away the answer. You might not be right, we'll see. All right, let's share the poll results of what students guessed. All right, before it was almost a dead heat, but we have now 70% of you guessed all of the above, and that's correct. So the fruit basket is going to cost $12 because it's $2 per fruit, and Fuzzy has been the fruit counter counting how many things Sophia's ordered. Now, Yara, do you remember Sophia's fruit order?
I don't.
I'm not sure anybody remembers it, but since you're a computer program, you don't need to have your own memory. Your variables save that for you. So if you'd like, you can now ask your variables to show their information up on the screen so you can see it.
Yes, please. Will my variables share what we've stored?
So can all the variables hold up your pieces of paper so Yara can see? See an apple,
Apple,
a pear,
a
grapefruit.
grapefruit.
Keep holding it up.
I don't know what that is.
So Yara, can you now, from what you see, make the fruit basket that Sophia ordered for us?
Yes. I see an apple, a pear, a grapefruit. Okay, so I have some fruit with me. I have my apple, have my kiwi. I'm going to draw a pear. I have my grapefruit. And I'm going to do a nice round pear for everybody. Now, I'm not an artist.
So Yara, can you now hand the bowl of fruit to Sophia? Together, we want to test out a really new Zoom feature called Zoom Fruit Delivery.
Gladly.
Can you just get
Here
it?
you go. Here's your order.
Oh, here it comes. Here it comes, Sophia.
Yay, my
Can you-
fruit.
Thank you so
Fuzzy,
much
can
for
you
the
pass it to me now?
I have an apple.
So thank you everybody for the variables, for the help you did for helping our fruit delivery program remember her fruit order. So to recap, first we used variables to store numbers and we showed how the values changed. And next we used variables to store text so the computer, Yara, could remember how to prepare a fruit order. We're going to explore more about variables soon, but first let's learn a little bit more about Yara. So Yara, you're our third special guest to play our lightning round game. We're going to put 60 seconds on the clock and Sophia's going to keep score. Actually, a variable on an app she's got is going to keep score. And your goal is to get through as many questions as possible and beat our current score of nine questions, which were answered by Sal Khan. So you want to make it good answers, but also make it fast.
Got it.
All right, Sophia, go.
Country I've always wanted to visit but haven't.
Greece.
As a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A historian.
Favorite drink?
My go-to black tea, my Sadaf.
Something you can't ever eat no matter how many people love it.
Sardines.
The last person you hugged not living with you.
Not living with me? Oh my goodness. My friend Jacqueline.
30 seconds.
Your favorite smell?
I love just any kitchen smell. I love the smell of the kitchen being used because it means that we're about to eat.
What were your hobbies when you were a kid?
I love everything from exploring, and I was in karate, and I would rock climb.
Okay, time's up.
All
How many did
right.
we get?
What was her score?
We got 7.
7. So that was
So
stored
close.
with variables. So close. Thank you so much. And we're going to play you a little applause sound.
Thank you.
All right, so I have a few more questions for both Fuzzy and Yara. For each of you, how did you become a standout in your field, and especially in a field for both of you that has a lack of diversity and representation?
You want me to go?
Well, yeah, go ahead, Fuzzy.
So I don't think it was intentional. I've always thought that diversity was very important, and I tried to work in companies that were very diverse. I find that working on products that are user facing, it's really important to build stuff that a lot of people can use. So I try to surround myself with a lot of diverse people, and that way be able to build things that have different viewpoints. One of the things that I remember, for example, with Sheets is having someone on the team that was basically hearing impaired or visually impaired helped us empathize more and build products that met the needs of visually impaired more. So diversity was really important for us there.
And how about you, Yara? Hollywood doesn't have nearly as much diversity as a lot of people who wish it did.
Yeah, well, I'm grateful because I got into this because I love to read and storytell. I actually didn't watch much television until I was 13. We'd watch an hour on Saturdays, and that was about it. So it's funny for me to be a television actor who didn't watch TV, but it was because I love telling stories. And so a lot of what I would do is when I'd get a script or have to go audition, it was really about what story are we telling? And I think similarly to Fuzzy, I found places in which diversity was really valued. So whether that be on Blackish or even now on Grownish, it was something where it didn't even have to be a conversation because everyone knew how important it was, not only for a great work environment, but just for a great final product too. And we've had the best time. And now we are in the role of making television. And that has been so much fun because we get to bring to life stories that I'm just discovering or learning about, and we're constantly meeting new people who have incredible things to share.
And why do you think it's important to increase representation of women or people of color in fields such as technology?
It's always been really important to me. I had the privilege of going to an all-girls school, and I remember what that did for me because at no point did I process like, oh, the sciences weren't meant for me or STEM wasn't meant for me, because I was surrounded by people who proved that it was. But I think just to Fuzzy's point, we need diverse teams of people in order to make products that reflect what our world looks like. And I think so many people have so much to contribute that it's important that we decrease the barriers that just stop people from being able to contribute.
And by the way, did you study computer science while you were in Harvard or in high school, in either of those?
It's so funny that you say that. I'm about to sign up for a class for my summer.
Which class?
I haven't decided yet. I have friends. So a lot of all of my girlfriends, I think, have taken a computer science class, and I'm the odd person out right now.
Well,
so I've been taking their suggestions.
I'm excited.
Yes, this is.
Speaking of diversity, by the way, one thing that's unique is all of us right here, Sophia, myself, Fuzzy, and Yara, are all 4 Iranian Americans as well. Yay.
By the way, nice t-shirt, Hadi.
Yeah, I'm wearing an immigrant t-shirt because Fuzzy and I are also immigrants as well. Oh, thank you, Evelyn, for showing your heart symbol. So Yara, we have some questions from our student panelists as well. One of our producers, Akira, is going to introduce these students.
Great.
Hi, Yara. So we have 2 questions. One from Neha, who has a question about girls and achievements. And Neha, I'm going to unmute you.
What suggestions do you have for girls to stay confident in whatever field they choose and to become leaders in their community?
Yeah, hi Neha, that's a wonderful question. I think what I've always relied on is, I always say my support network. And so for me, that's my family. I come from a really cool matriarchy of women. But that's also my chosen family, my friends, my professors and teachers. And the reason I say that is that there's so much happening in the world that oftentimes you can run into barriers that try and convince you that this isn't your space. But that's why I rely on the people around me, not only for that confidence boost, but to constantly get better at whatever I'm trying to achieve. But I think having those people around me have helped me through every step of the way.
Thank
And
you.
to always be open to learning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We also have our last question from Amir. So Amir, I'm going to unmute you. He had a question about achievement.
Yeah.
What drives you to achieve your goals and motivates you to never give up?
That's a great question, Amir. And I've been thinking about that a lot, especially now that we're all at home and life looks very different right now. But I think what's been important for my entire family are finding ways to continue to be of service to my many communities. Not only the communities that my family are part of, being Black and Iranian, but just the many communities that I think support us. And so sometimes that's small, like on Blackish, being able to tell really great stories that hopefully spread a point of view. And sometimes that's trying to figure out how I can use an opportunity to give back, and how I can support other people. But that's always helped motivate me, because otherwise, if you're just doing it for yourself, sometimes it's hard to find the motivation. But when you do it for the betterment of so many people around you, then I think that's what convinces me to get up when I'm not trying to accomplish something, to go do it.
Thank you, Yara, and thanks, Amir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And Yara, thank you for joining us today to share your story. We're all
Of
going to say
course.
goodbye to Yara soon. So can we switch to gallery view for the audience so all of our students can wave goodbye to Yara? And Sophia, can you play an applause? Thank Yara. Bye,
Thank you.
Yara.
Bye.
Thanks for the
Thank
fruit
you all
basket.
for being a part of my first computer science class.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Fuzzy, let's chat a little bit more. Oh, bye-bye, Yara. So Fuzzy, we're going to chat a little bit more about your background and your work at Google with Google Spreadsheets. While Fuzzy and I chat, if you have questions, don't forget to send them in at code.org/questions. You have about 2 minutes if you want to submit a question. So Fuzzy, how old were you when you began learning how to code, and how did you get into it? What's your story about how you got into this?
I don't even remember how old I was, because I was as you can tell, I'm not a young one like you all. So back then, I was actually a history major in college, and when I graduated, I was having a hard time finding a job. So I ended up selling life insurance for a while, then real estate. Then my wife said, wouldn't it be great if we opened up a Subway sandwich shop and worked all day and all night together? And I said, sure. And we tried that for a while. It wasn't until my 30s when I actually started really coding. I had a job in the banking industry and was coding there and teaching myself most of the coding. And that's when I came up with the idea of taking Excel spreadsheets and converting them into web apps. And that idea, with the help of a lot of amazing people, we sold that product to Google, and it became Google Sheets. So it wasn't like I wasn't coding as a young kid like everyone here.
That's really incredible. And most people envision that people who start companies and sell them, are whiz kids who learn when they're like really young and then sell their startup when they're like right out of school or something. But you, between being an insurance salesperson and real estate salesperson and the sandwich salesperson.
I make great sandwiches.
You make great sandwiches. Yeah, it's pretty amazing that Google Spreadsheets was basically an acquisition by Google of a company made by a sandwich shop owner. And by the way, if you think about it, there's a connection between spreadsheets and our earlier activity. When we were all in a grid, the students were in a grid, each one of us was a variable, just like a spreadsheet stores a value in each of the cells in its grid. And each cell in a spreadsheet has a name, like A1 or B1 or C2, just like a variable. And in fact, I often tell people, if you've ever written a command in a spreadsheet using a formula, like saying this cell is going to be the sum of this and that, you've written one line of code, and that's how you can start learning computer programming. So now we're going to go into the second segment of today's class, which is learning about how to use variables in games. And so Fuzzy, Sophia and I are going to use, we're basically going to use code.org to modify a game using variables. And I'm going to change a screen share to show code.org on screen. Just 1 second. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. It's wonderful.
Thank you. So for those of you who are not familiar, we're in code.org Sprite Lab. On the left-hand side is where the code will be running where we make our game. On the right-hand side is the code for this game. And there's all these little commands here in these different drawers that we can look at. Now, this code has already been written, and I'm not going to run through how it works. What it does is it creates a bunch of these little players called sprites on the screen. So it's got this little alien who's a good guy, and then these purple aliens who are bad guys and these coins. And when you hit the run button, all these things float around, and you can use the cursor keys to move the good alien that we control. You can also use the cursor keys on the keyboard. The arrow keys move the good little alien. But what we want him to do is when the good little alien catches a coin, we want to count the score. So Sophia, you're going to do that using variables.
Got it.
And so we're up here and it says when a coin has been gotten by the good alien. So what is the first thing we want to do? So Sophia, go into the sprite menu. And the first thing you want to do is remove the coin. So bring out the remove block and then take out or change that to the coin. Actually, no, don't change that because that's going to remove all the coins. Take that out, take out this little block and go into the sprite menu and choose this sprite. Because if you removed the coin sprite, all of them would go, but you want to choose just this sprite. And now when you do this, that sprite that you get will disappear. But what we also want to do is increase the score. And at the start of the game, we created a variable score. We set the score to 0. So now what I want you to do is to go into the variables section and set the score. See, it says set score to, or sorry, not set score to, change score. Change, and then click that I and change it to score. And so we're going to change the score by 1. Do you want to change it by 1 or by, you can do it by 2. Oh, let's leave it by 1. Now
That's just like me when I was the counter.
Exactly. That's just like you. Now, Sophia, hit the run button. As you're going around, you can control the little, you can control this little thing and it's catching these little coins and the coins are disappearing, but we're not seeing the score. So what we need to do is we actually need to display the score on screen. So Sophia, go into this area of text, the section that says text, and bring out the print button. And in there, you want to type score. But we want to combine the score, the word score, with the value in score. So go into text again and bring out this join block and drop it in there inside the print instead of the little score block. Yeah. And then join the word score with the quotes around and the colon. And then in the variables, bring out the value score. So now it's going to tell the score each time we get one of these things. So now if we hit run, I'm going to play this time. I can run around and catch the coins and see I got a score of 1, and a score of 2, and a score of 3, and so on. Now I want to use a different variable, and look, Fuzzy, you can also count these as well. What I want to do next is actually make it so that our player gets smaller and smaller, and the coins get smaller and harder to catch as we go along. So what we need to do is go back to the start of the game and create a new variable. We're going to create a new variable for the size of these. So go into variables and say set I to, and click on the I and say rename this variable. So we're going to change that to size. The variable name is going to be size.
Okay, good.
All right. And we're going to set size. Can you drag out the number 0 and set the size to 50? All right, so this is going to be the counter for what our size should start as. But what we want to do is now, every time you capture a coin, we want to change all the sprites to that size. So now go into actions, actions, and see where it says set size to 50. Bring that out. And so when a coin is caught, change this coin size, but instead of choosing 50, pull out that 50 and then go into variables and pull out the size value. Now size is going to keep this size at 50. So before we do that, we actually want to reduce the size as well. So go into variables again and say change I by, and instead of making it changing I, change the size. So we want to make the size smaller. It started out as 50. If we reduce it, how much do we want to change it by? How about by negative 10?
Negative 10.
So it'll start as 50, then become 40, then 30. And so now we want to do this not just for the coins. Let's make everything smaller. So click this block and hit Command C to copy it and Command V to paste it. And now put that in there. So not only the coins change size, make the good little alien change size.
Good guy.
And then click that whole block again and hit Command C and Command V.
Now we need
And I'll make
dark
the
side.
dark side purple aliens. All right, now try our game again.
Can I do it this time?
Sophia, you're doing great.
Yes, yes. Oh no. Oh.
Oh my God, look how tiny he got. You're getting a score. Oh, it's super hard to see your
That
little
counter is not as good as me.
Ah, where we go? Where?
It's so these aliens are now size 10, so it's hard to see them. All right, that was super fun. So I'm going to stop this for a second. Now, like all things you make on code.org, one thing we can do is we made this little game and we can share it out. And if you want, you can actually, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. You can actually scan this QR code using your phones, and the app that Sophia made would then show up. You just tap the little thing that shows up on your screen, and that app that we just made is on your phone. You can play it. Sophia, don't play it right now. But instead of doing that right now, we're going to send this app to you in email later so you can actually improve on it more. And in fact, one of the things we want you to do is figure out what happens when the good alien runs into the bad purple aliens. That's something you can do. Now, before we go into the next part of our episode, I actually want to take a pause and do our trivia question. So it's trivia time. You ready, Soph?
Yeah. Okay.
So Fuzzy, we want you to read the trivia question for today's audience, and everybody across the Zoom call can answer it. Make sure to read the question and all the answers.
And should I answer it like last time? What was the first computer that had real-world practical use? Was it the ENIAC, the Turing machine, the Babbage calculator, or a human who did the job of a computer? Let's see, who's ahead? Looks like
Right,
the
so
human's ahead.
I'm watching the results come in. Not everybody else can see them, but we have about half of our audience has already voted.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer.
2/3 of you have voted, and this is a pretty tight one.
This is tight. I don't know. This is tricky.
All right, so almost everybody has voted. So can we share the results of people's polls?
Wow, everyone thinks that, or most people think it was a human?
So I'll say straight up, the Turing machine isn't actually a physical machine. It's a conceptual abstraction. And the Babbage calculator was really also a theoretical calculator. Charles Babbage came up with the idea of a computer, but neither of those are actually sort of real world practical uses. I'm going to give you the answer via screen share. So just 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. The ENIAC computer, built in 1945, 80 years ago, it was 1,800 square feet of office space it took, and it weighed 30 tons. This was the first modern, or not modern, but first computer with practical use. And it used vacuum tubes instead of transistors and electricities. And today's phones, like Sophia's phone right here, have a tiny chip the size of a fingernail that's literally 1,000,000 times more powerful than this first computer. However, this wasn't the first computer that had real world practical uses. The first computer, as early as 1613, a computer was somebody who did computing work, like math calculations. And throughout the 1800s and even the 1900s, entire teams of computers, often women, would work on hard problems because we didn't have the machines yet to do this work. And in fact, Here's pictures of some of the women who helped get the man on the moon and helped America's space program. These young women were called computers. That was literally their job. And if you've seen the movie Hidden Figures, it showcases a woman named Catherine Goebel, who's one of these women. These women basically did the work of now today's modern day computers. And I think that's interesting because in today's world, technology is constantly improving in a way that changes jobs, and human jobs are being replaced by machines. And the computer itself used to be a human job long before we had what we now think of as computers. So we're now going to move to the next segment in our episode, which is using variables in apps. And we're going to say goodbye to Sophia.
Hi, Sophia.
Bye, Sophia. And we're going to welcome my second sidekick and my son, Darius.
Hi.
Hi, Darius.
Hi, Darius. So what we're going to do is we're going to make an app that helps us invent a story. It's going to be a Tell Me a Story app.
Darius,
so let
are you
me,
nervous?
Darius, are you nervous?
A little bit.
A little bit nervous? It's
I am.
always a little bit nervous to have a big audience, and it's especially nervous when you're coding in front of a big audience. Coding by yourself is a lot easier because you can make mistakes and then you can fix your mistakes. Making a mistake in front of thousands of people is definitely different. So we're going to share screens here. We're now in Code.org's App Lab. And what you see here on the left is the app we're going to create. On the right is the code. And we've started some of this for you, and I'm going to walk you through this. We're in design mode. You can see this app has a bunch of text inputs where you can enter a name, an adjective, a noun, and a verb. And when you click this button, doesn't do anything yet because we haven't written the code for it. But what we would like it to do is to store all of this information. Just like Yara asked the variables to remember the names of fruits, we want this app to remember this information and then to switch to screen 2 and to fill in those different words to finish this sentence to make a story. So this here is going to be the name, and this here is going to be an adjective, and this here is going to be a noun, and so on. So let's go into code mode and write the code of what happens when you click this button. Let's remember the information here using variables. Fuzzy, will you be able to help us doing this?
Absolutely.
All right, so Darius, what I want you to do is, if you look here, there's an on event block, which is what happens when the story button gets clicked. And what we want to do is get the text from these things and store them in variables. And if you look up top, we already have created the variables for the name, the adjective, the noun, etc. So what I want you to do is to go under the variables category of commands and drag out the x equals. But instead of x, change it to your name. And you have a small typo.
Oh.
Your name. And so the value to put in your name, go into your controls. And you want to get the value in the text input, so use the get text block. And you want to do get text of the name input. All right. So what that's going to do is store that into that variable. And then what we want to do, this is what's happening when the Tell Me a Story button is clicked. So what we want to do next is then change the screen. So go into the blocks here and find the Set Screen button.
Should be at the bottom.
It's near the very bottom, but there it is, Set Screen. And pull that up. And now we're going to change screen to screen 2. And just to remember what screen 2 is, over here, you can click in design mode to change screen 2. So that's what screen 2 is. Now go back to code mode. All right. Now, once we've changed screen to screen 2, we can set the text. So this text is in the first label up here. If you move your mouse above these set of question marks, that's where the name output is going to go. So go up and find the set text block. It's at the top.
You're doing great, Darius.
And set the text for name output. Right now, it's going to fill it up with the word text, but we don't want to set the name output to text. We want to use the value in our variable. Fuzzy, what should we put over there?
For the variable?
Yeah, instead of this text here.
For the text, I would say funny.
No, we want to change it to what we stored in the variable. So we're going to use your name, which was the value that we remembered.
Oh, I see.
And there's
All right.
misspelled it again. All right, so now let's run this and see how it works.
We should be on the first screen zone.
It's okay. Now hit run. So now it's going to say, let's come up with a story. So we're going to enter a name. Fuzzy, pick a random name for us.
Random name. I'll
Yep.
pick Darius.
Darius. That wasn't very random. Now click tell me a story. And so you can see it says one fine day, Darius walked into a blank blank and blank over a blank. It was a truly great day. So that's our first step of remembering what Darius entered, but we need to do the rest of it. So we're not going to do this all typing in the code right now. We've actually written the lines to copy. So Darius, click show text. When you click show text, you see all this code as JavaScript instead of blocks. And if you go to the very bottom, see where it has all these adjectives already made, the adjectives and nouns and all these get text blocks. Can you select all of that and then cut it?
This looks like my code.
It looks like what?
My code.
Yeah,
Sheet.
and then paste it there and then go down to the bottom again. And then all these set texts.
Put it again.
So Fuzzy, yeah, what we're doing right now is no longer like dragging and dropping blocks. It's dragging and it's literally how real coders work in text. But one thing you can note, Fuzzy, is even though we're here, you can still drag and drop blocks into here.
Wow.
Turns them
That's
into text.
cool.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. And then once we're done, we can change back to block mode, and everything we copied and pasted is back into blocks. And so now, and I'm going to close this so you can see it more easily. So what we did now is when the story button is clicked, we collect, just like Yara asked Samuel to remember a banana and so to remember a pear, we're going to change these variables. Your name is going to remember what's in the name input. And noun one is the name of this variable. Each of these variables remembers each of these things here. So when we change the screen, in each of these labels, we can set text and we get the values in the variables. So Darius, can you run this? And now we're going to try it out. So let's now come up with this. So Darius, why don't you now come up with a name?
Pick a random one like me.
You want to do Fuzzy? Let's do
No,
Fuzzy.
Steve is fine.
Okay. All right. For the adjective, Fuzzy, you want to pick a good adjective? Give us a funny
Yeah,
adjective.
I'll go with funny like I was putting before.
Funny? All
Yeah.
right.
Which rhymes with fuzzy.
It rhymes with fuzzy.
No, it
And
doesn't.
then for the third, no, it doesn't. So for the third, for the second adjective, though, let's do an audience poll. So can we make a poll so the entire audience can choose the third adjective we use? So we can choose funny, brave, famous, or clumsy. I kind of bet I know what people are gonna choose. Yeah, when we were preparing this, we were pretty much certain what everybody was gonna pick as their favorite. All right, almost all of you have voted. All right, so can we share the results? All right, the most popular adjective is clumsy. So Darius, can you type clumsy? So Steve, funny, clumsy. Now Darius, can you pick another noun?
The grocery store.
The grocery store.
Actually, no, I don't want to type long words
All right, how about an animal?
like the arcade.
Oh, the arcade. All right, and then Fuzzy, you want to pick another noun?
Yeah, how about a puppy?
Puppy. Aw. And then lastly, let's use an audience to choose a verb that ends in ed. So can we put up the audience poll? So it's appeared, sneezed, jumped, or danced. And let's let the audience choose what they want. All right, and could we share the results of the audience vote? All right, the winning answer is sneezed. So Darius, can you enter sneezed?
Oops.
And then tell me a story. So one fine day, Fuzzy, you want to read it for us?
Sure, but I'm gonna get all emotional. This is a story my mom used to read for me when I was a baby. One fine day, Steve walked into a funny arcade and sneezed over a clumsy puppy. It was truly a great day. I remember it like yesterday when she used to read this to me.
That's a wonderful story. And by the way, Fuzzy, I have inside information that your mom is actually watching this today. So
Wow. So she'll confirm this.
she can confirm this. So thank you so much, Fuzzy, for helping us with this app. And what we're going to do, by the way, is you're going to get an email with this app so you can improve on it yourself, so you can make multiple stories. There's multiple changes you can make to it. So for example, you can take out this very last line and replace it with another variable. You can make a second story that uses the same inputs, and you can let the user click between the two stories. You can make a longer story. You're basically going to have this app. I'm not going to use the QR code to share it. We'll send it to you via email. I want to then also get some chance for the audience questions that people submitted for Fuzzy. So Akira, our producer, is going to join up again and then share the questions for Fuzzy.
At this point, I am an expert question asker or relayer, I'd like to think. So Fuzzy, this one is from Caitlin C. in Wyoming. She said, what setbacks have you had in your career and how did you overcome them?
What setback? That's a great question. Setbacks, I wouldn't say it's setbacks because I always learn from every single experience that I have. And it's been literally just, making sure that I've learned over time that I do much better when I really enjoy what I work on. And I've learned that trying different experiences, and if it's not working out, going to the next one, but using the last one as a learning experience is really important. So when I was selling life insurance, realizing that I didn't necessarily, I wasn't as good at selling, but I still I learned a lot from it, and then I moved on to the next thing. So you're always just learning and trying new things, and you just can't give up.
Thank you so much, Fuzzy. And this next question is for both you, Hadi, and Fuzzy. This is from Alice in Zambia. She said, universities are expensive, so how can I learn computer science without a university education? So judging by the question, I'm assuming she's a bit further along. And so if you both could speak to how can she learn the basics, and also how can she continue to grow as she reaches those more advanced stages?
How do you want to take this, or I can take it?
I can take it, although Fuzzy's a perfect example of somebody who's had an incredible career creating Google spreadsheets and even Google Docs and Google Drive that is being used by over 1 billion users. And he never went to a university to learn computer science. He basically taught himself coding. And so there's lots and lots of people that teach yourself. I also taught myself when I was much younger living in Iran. But when I taught myself, it wasn't nearly as easy. You needed to use books, and learning computer programming was hard. Today, if you use code.org as a beginner, you can learn all the stuff that we were showing you. You can use code.org to basically learn from our lessons that guide you through them. And you can also get full computer science, university level computer science classes online as well. And in fact, if you visit code.org, we link to some of the best university computer science classes, such as CS50 at Harvard, which I suspect is a class that Yara Shahidi is going to take either when her junior year or senior year starts. And it's a year-long computer science class that you could pay tens of thousands of dollars to go to Harvard to take that class, or you can take it online. Besides that, there's many other online university classes that you can see links to from the code.org website.
And if you sign up on code.org/break for our mailing list, we'll link that in our weekly email after this episode.
Oh, wow.
Just to expand on that, the best way to learn is to have a project in mind. So I love the fact that when you go on code.org, you're actually building something and learning. It's much better than reading a book. Whenever I've learned, in the past, I would get all sorts of books, and then I would try to use it to build something.
Exactly. And we're so lucky. We've had students now who've created 80 million projects on code.org in just the last 2 years. So you won't be alone. So we're reaching the end of our time, but the fun doesn't stop here. We're going to send you all an email within the next hour with all of our weekly challenges. If you're not on our email list, go to code.org/break and sign up. And for this week's challenges, you're first going to get some practice. You're going to practice variables to make a little bee that goes and fetches honey. And for our older students, there's some variable puzzles that you can do in App Lab. And then for this week's challenge, you can either modify the alien coin game that Sophia made, or improve and add features to the Storyteller app that Darius made, or do both of those. And when you're finished, share it with your parents. If you have social media, you can ask them to share the app on social media with hashtag Codebreak, or you can email it to us and we'll pick 2 of the best ones that you submit to highlight them and invite them on our show next week. And for parents, our activities each week include activities that students can do on a mobile phone if you don't have a computer, or even an unplugged activity for students who don't have even a device of any sort. So please sign up for our mailing list at code.org/break. And lastly, before we say goodbye, I want to share next week's special guest, which I'm very excited about. We have 2 special guests next week. One is Macklemore, the famous rapper, and the second is Scott Forstall, the inventor of iOS and the iPhone. So that's going to be a really special episode and not one to miss. As we part, I want to say goodbye to our special guest, Fuzzy. So can we all switch to gallery view? And I'm going to play a quick round of applause for Fuzzy since Sophia is not here for us. And all right, everybody, goodbye.
Bye. Bye, Darius. Great job. Thank you.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, please spread the word. If each of you invites other parents, we're going to together make this the world's largest interactive classroom. Thank you all. Goodbye. See you next week. And if you're alone, take a code break.